Hi folks, you're with Tassos today at your Pushback channel. Thank you for joining this live stream. In this live stream, I'd like to talk about something that I'm seeing a lot of YouTubers or some YouTubers make mention of. That is that America has or the citizenry or the populace has broken apart. They're in different camps, neither one even prepared to listen to the other, and each side hating the other, and so on. And that this has now got to a stage where it's irreparable. The American flag no longer represents Americans. The Constitution is no longer a relevant document for many Americans or half the Americans, and so on. So let's look at that alleged lack of unity and say, well, what are the causes? Because it wasn't always like this. What are the causes for these different camps who hating each other? Because it's gone beyond just simply, oh, I vote for these guys and you vote for those guys. It's gone beyond that. That was a case where not that some people didn't get excited by it, they did, but it's gone well beyond that. It's no longer a case of political preference. The major parties used to have very different policies. Now they've got exactly the same policy. They all support the globalist policies, the mass immigration, and they all love illegal immigration, this sort of thing. So what is it that's tearing not just the United States, but the Western world generally, but focus on the United States for this one? So what's tearing it apart? Can it be mended? Can it be fixed? Is what's happening natural and organic? Is society just naturally developing in a different direction, where the American flag is irrelevant, or where the Constitution is viewed as some bullshit piece of paper, and where if you ask a kid in the street who was George Washington or who was John Adams or Thomas Jefferson, they look at you, who? No, is that was one of the guys from high school? Yeah, nobody knows. It's changed now. There are kids in Australia who know more about US presidents than most Americans do, which is kind of dumb, I guess. But there you go. So let's just have a look at that in its entirety. And there have been a few comments recently from various people. Nikki Haley's made comments about this. Commentators like Dinesh D'Souza has also made references. So there's a fair bit of talk out there. Now, I for one don't believe that the tearing apart of America or dividing into different camps was natural or organic at all. I don't accept that for a moment. From the time that the globalists took over the media, pretty much all the media, that's when the divisions really started to settle in. Now, it doesn't mean there haven't been divisions on specific issues. Say there's been in America, there was drama about the Vietnam War as a case in point. The blacks in certain areas of Chicago or even the east side of LA around Watts and Vernon, that sort of thing, they were they've rioted previously, and that's gone crazy. And of course, there's the Black Lives Matter riots recently. But before the globalists took over the media, there was certainly a simmering dissent, but it was a fairly small proportion of the population. This was before there'd been mass immigration, which has depressed black wages. So blacks were angry and so on. But again, because they didn't have what Whitey had, it wasn't that they were necessarily lacking in opportunity. Certainly not after, say, mid 1970s onwards. There were a lot of opportunities out there, and it'd be much harder to say that they're being oppressed. They didn't like the idea that they could commit crimes and had to be accountable for it. That was something that they didn't like, a view that's being held today, incidentally. But the people who would have, say, been, if you add up all the people that would have been upset with America, if I can use that term, it would have maxed out at maybe 15% of the total population. Even that's probably been quite generous. There's various arguments saying all the gay lesbian community were against, but that's not true. I know many gay people who've done very well in business, and they have executive roles, and they've got good incomes and living in nice postcodes and that sort of thing. So I don't believe that all of them are just angry butch lesbians or something. That's simply not true. So nor are all black people angry and poor. But at 15% would be the maximum. So you could say that the 15% were against the other 85% in varying degrees. And again, the 15% is being quite generous. Now, there may be those who thought, well, things could be improved upon, things could be better, but that's fine. That's always going to be the case. But there was nothing like the disunity and the hatred that's seen today along purely ideological lines. And I've spoken to a lot of people who are blind in their hatred. They've got no facts, they've got no reason, they've just been talked into it and they're consumed by it. So say the people, many people I know that say that they hate Donald Trump because he's Nazi, he's Hitler, he's a fascist, this sort of thing. But you ask them, well, what exactly has he done that was fascist? Oh, I don't have to tell you, he's just bad. No, really. I'd like to know if you've got this very strong view that he's a Nazi. What has he done? Oh well, he puts babies in cages. Oh, okay, all right then. Well, these are people that have come across the border illegally who shouldn't even be there, and many of them are being brought along by people smugglers, and the children don't even belong to the people that come over. So if there's a reasonable belief that the children not accompanied by their own family, they're detained until the family member can be found. You can't send them back at their age unaccompanied by an adult, and you don't want to hand them back to the people smugglers. So what would you do? So that's your problem to solve. What would you do? Oh, I'd do anything, but I wouldn't do that. No, really. What would you do? How would you solve? That's the problem. You're the president. You tell me what you'd do. Oh, it's not the same. It's not the same. All right, then. Well, let me tell you that Obama actually started that, putting the children in cages. So those cages were Obama. Oh, but I've seen photographs. Sure, and they're from the Obama years. Oh, it's all right when he does it. It's just not okay when Trump. So not only is there loathing and hatred, it's completely irrational, totally irrational. There's no effort to even engage with the facts, no effort to engage with reality. And this makes a big difference from how it was before. So previously you could, for most things, not everything and not every person, but you could present your rational, sensible, factual case and people would go, oh, okay, no, I get that. They may still not agree, but they would at least concede your point and may even modify their own views as a consequence. But this is completely different what's happening today. People have got these absurd irrational hatreds. They're hanging on to alleged facts that bear no resemblance to reality. Did you know that 10,000 people are murdered, black people are murdered every day by fascist white pig cops? Well, where do you get that number from? I don't know. I heard it somewhere. They're just hanging on to these, winding themselves up, working themselves up into a frenzy over facts that are completely untrue and fabricated. Now, the globalist media can do this because they've got such total control of the media, the public discourse and the media discourse. So they can come out with any ridiculous thing, and they can have speakers on or guests on say the news or talk shows or current affairs that can come out with the most absurd rubbish about, again, the globalist talking points. But all of the things they come out with are designed to create social division along gender and race lines. So there's a violence epidemic against women. White men are the culprit. There's a rape epidemic. Again, it's nearly always white men that somehow magically seem to be the culprits here. There's an epidemic of racism. There's so there are all these things, but all these things are fabrications. Now, this didn't used to happen. Now, these elaborate fabrications could not have taken place previously, because if any news outlet or current affairs outlet had tried it on, the others would have exposed it as being a complete fabrication, total bullshit, and so they would have been shamed and humiliated for the lies they were telling. But when you control the whole media landscape, you can do this sort of thing. You can make the most outlandish, outrageous, ridiculous comment, absurd things. You can just make the claim, because no one's going to expose you or show you up. So you can get away with that. And this is, in my view, at least, this is where most of the division has come from. Now, that's at the media level. The next level is, which was running in parallel and equally powerful, I believe, is school. They're using the education system to just push globalist propaganda. Whitey bad, whitey history bad, everyone's evil, and they're using, of course, the transgender and the gay lesbian thing to push and create social division and to put to shame and humiliate, particularly white people. So this is going on. So when the kids are in college, they're told, the most absurd things, things that are not even remotely true. So we've got, lecturers and professors, alleged lecturers and professors, I should say, telling the most grotesque untruths to students, just manufacturing the most ridiculous lies, and these dumbass students are accepting it. So they go on these ridiculous street marches and so on, and they hate themselves. They're opposing the system, the white patriarchy, and so on and so forth. But it's all manufactured. None of it's true. It's just this manufactured conflict, these manufactured facts, these manufactured emotionally charged people who have, and of course, a much lower IQ. Like most of the kids going to college today would have flunked out in junior high school years ago. So you've got a very low IQ bevy of people who are easily impressionable and controllable, and they're going through college and coming out as these social justice, low IQ social justice warriors. The third part of the equation here is, three or four parts actually. The third part is the NGOs. Like the amount of NGOs that existed 20 years ago, not only did very few of them exist, but they were hardly well cashed up. One or two might have been, but nowhere near to the extent they are today. So you've got a lot of very well cashed up NGOs, very activist, pushing, climate issues and race and gender issues and so on. Again, with all the lies and hyperbole and whipping up into a frenzy these low IQ young kids they draw in. So kids, instead of having an after school job or a weekend job or something like that, working at a McDonald's or one of the takeout food chains, instead of that, these kids are running around as activists for these NGOs. So they're being indoctrinated in school, and they're being double indoctrinated through these NGOs. And I'm staggered when especially when more of the younger women apply for jobs and so on, that the only work they've ever done has been activists for NGOs. I mean, they've never done a day's work in their life except walking up and down waving a fucking placard in a street march. That's it. And they think they're being high-powered, kick-ass revolutionaries by doing it, wearing their Che Guevara T-shirts. And again, you have to have a low IQ to sucker for that bullshit, but they are, and there's certainly a lot of low IQ folks out there. The final thing is the globalists have taken over all the institutions that the West were designed to protect the West, to protect our customs and habits and our laws and so on. And the globalists have taken over, infiltrated all that, including, by the way, all Western governments. So while the media that's globalist controlled comes out with, thousands of black people are murdered every day by white cops, BLM on the right and so on, none of our politicians push back on it or call it out. In fact, if anything, they roll over, they just go down like a sack of shit when that stuff comes along, and they don't oppose it or stand up against it or point out that it's outrageous untruths that are being peddled by the media. And if they really made a concerted effort and came at the media, you guys are telling fucking lies. Stop it. You're dividing the country. So this is where I think the division is coming from. So if the media was in genuinely free and independent hands, which they're not, but if they were, then we will be hearing many diverse stories that they couldn't get away with they just couldn't get away with the lies they get away with today. And that would make a big change. Any college academic who wants to hate on America or hate on the West, then they can do so on their own time. They can attend for free. They're not going. Why should they pick up taxpayer money if they want to be activists? If they want to be activists, they can go somewhere else, or they've got to do it all for free. Otherwise, then college lecturers and academics are there to teach the kids whatever the relevant subject is. I would also shut down all the gender studies and black studies and lesbian studies. All that stuff has to go. It's only used for again dividing society and creating hatreds where none existed previously. So and same goes for the schools. Any teacher wants to teach hatred of America and hatred of white people, then they're out of a job. It's that simple. So there's a lot we could do to turn back this social division that's going on. It would take some work and it would take a bit of time, but it could be done. So my view is that all the social division that we see has been artificially created by the globalist controlled media, the education system, and of course taking control of our bodies politic and other things like the courts and the FBI and so on. So I think if this was if these things were reversed, then we would this social division would disappear. I don't believe it's organic and natural. I believe it's been artificially thrust upon us. I mean, yeah, there are other feed-in factors too, like all the black brown people that they're bringing into the West, who all come from these dirt poor shithole countries, and very few, if any of them, have anything in common with the white population. It'll take if you look at most races, it takes them many generations before they assimilate and even start to integrate. I mean, that could be over 100 years away, 150 years away. So these are the things that I believe are causing the division. I believe they're artificial, or they're being forced upon us without our consent. And if those are addressed, then I believe that the social cohesion that we once had and the respect we had for one another will come back. But the globalists don't want that. Where disunity is power for the globalists, and that's what they don't want. You've been with Tassus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.